All right, next up, we got Minnesota, North Carolina. North Carolina, 7.5-point home favorites, 49 the total. I'm telling you what, Athan Kaliakmanis for Minnesota, he's not doing it for me at the quarterback spot. And that's a big reason why I cashed a ticket with Eastern Michigan last week against Minnesota. Although that got very, very – I probably shouldn't have cashed it. Eastern Michigan couldn't move the football at all in that football game against Minnesota. But Minnesota just, turnovers and not punching in drives, finishing drives with touchdowns, and it still allowed me to get the money there with Eastern Michigan. Very fortuitous. But I'll tell you what, Minnesota offensively is why they didn't cover that game. Just weren't efficient enough. And that's now 2 weeks in a row where I'm not impressed with what I've seen from PJ Fleck's offense here with Minnesota in the first two games against Nebraska and Eastern Michigan. I think the move upward is warranted because I do think this North Carolina defense, they were great against South Carolina. They did give up some points and kind of looked a little bit more like that last year North Carolina defense against App State, but they survived it. They get the overtime win. I mentioned it last week. I thought there was a wider gap between App State and North Carolina this year, but that series history just stuck out like a sore thumb, where every recent meeting, App State and North Carolina was a down-to-the-wire thriller. And I said, for that reason, I had to take a small bite of plus 19.5 on App State. And I'm really glad I did, as that game, obviously, no sweat cover with App State, taking North Carolina to overtime in that game. Obviously, I still like the offense. Drake May, very loaded North Carolina offense. So the defense had that dominant effort against South Carolina. We're thinking, Gene Chiswick's stop unit looks a lot better this year. And then they kind of took a step back last week against App State on the defensive side of the football. It is worth noting British Brooks is expected to be at practice this week for North Carolina, key cog in the running back spot, and expected to be back. Of course, the NCAA made the decision about Tez Walker not being available, but, Gavin Blackwell, Kobe Paysur, Nate McCollum, and others have stepped up well enough at receiver, still have a lot of weapons to work with. I don't trust this Minnesota offense, period. And even against a defense that 1 week they're up, 1 week they're down, I'm not taking points with this offense and this Minnesota team on the road here. North Carolina lean for me. Not sure I'll bet it, but certainly solid lean to the Tar Heels. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, this is one sometimes in college football where you might want to go with the team that's just going to score more, even though Minnesota hangs their hat with their defense. In North Carolina, that defense looked leaky. They gave it up on the ground, which they really didn't, against South Carolina. South Carolina threw it all right, but they were pretty balanced. Yeah, I'd like to take Minnesota, but this offense, I don't know what they could do. Now, maybe against North Carolina, they can get it done. This was one going through it was just a nothing for me in this game and a wait and see.
And tough from a total standpoint, too. I mean, Minnesota's a dead nuts under team. And I actually think if Minnesota is going to, I'd lean under. I really do. I mean, because I think, and Minnesota's O-line has not been as good as I thought. And remember, North Carolina feasted on a team with some issues and personnel problems along the offensive line when they played South Carolina.
Yeah,
they might be
sacks.
able to do that again. Yeah, they might be able to do that again here. So I'd lean under personally, but not anything strong at 49. Feels like a high total for a Minnesota game. You could also say it feels like a low total for a North Carolina game. So interesting which